Hello and welcome to another video. In this one, we're talking about a workflow that I do. I get asked all the time, Anthony, how are you so productive? I don't know. Well, I think I'm slightly more productive than the average, but I'm going to show you a workflow today that helps me be a lot more effective in landing changes. And so let's jump into it. All right, so I'm sure you've all seen the meme of like, you know, plus 1,000 minus 2,000 or some crazy high number of change lines and someone just saying looks good to me and shipping it. That's not what we're here for today. We're here to talk about how to make changes a lot easier for people to digest and understand, and ultimately how to take a large change and break it down into smaller parts. And that is kind of the key here, breaking things down into smaller parts. Now, the reason that I do this is kind of two main things. The first is to make me more effective by making it a lot easier for a reviewer to understand the change set and approve it. And typically, the smaller a change set is, the easier it is to review and the easier it is to, get it out the door quicker. The other part of this is reducing risk. Generally, it's not necessarily one-to-one, but generally smaller changes are less likely to break. I say less likely because you can always have some small change that will cause catastrophic problems. But in general, if you're changing one small thing, exactly one small thing, it's less likely to break things, and you're more likely, if it does break something, to know why and what and then fix it. And so I try and strive to make every change some small atomic bit that gets rolled out. But anyway, enough talking about the why and the how. The why parts of it. Let's jump into the how and show you an example of how I manage my workflow. I tend to use a rebase workflow, and we're going to be looking at a change that's actually in progress right now. Long story short, I'm trying to upgrade Django, and one of the things that I have to do is fix historic migrations that use a deprecated feature. And so what I started with is a way to introduce a failure, and then I'm going to add a bunch of changes on top of that in order to fix the failure. And the change that actually introduces our failure looks like this. And spoilers, this is the PR that we're going to be talking about, and this PR, it's only plus 100 minus 260, but even this PR, oh, you can't even see it. Even this PR is too big. Plus 100 minus 260. Even this PR is, in my mind, too big and unreviewable in its current state. But anyway, this is what I started with, basically turning off this hack that I put in a long time ago when I upgraded Django in the past in order to actually get to the current version that I'm on by ignoring a particular warning. But now I no longer want to ignore this warning because in Django 5.1, it becomes fatal. Cool. Okay, we have something that fails, and that's what we're going to start with. Now, spoilers, you can kind of see my strategy for additionally, building on top of this mega branch, this one place where I'm putting all of these changes and collecting them all together. Oh, that's the other thing that I wanted to mention before we get too far. This workflow that I'm going to show today isn't going to require you to learn any new tools or pay for any startup or use any weird browser extensions. We're just going to be using vanilla Git. And yes, it's going to be on GitHub, but you could actually use this same workflow for any Git host that you're dealing with. The only GitHub specific thing that I'm going to mention is draft PRs. Okay, so we have this mega PR. We have it in draft mode. We have this branch, and you'll notice that I have a whole bunch of commits here. Now, what's important about each of these commits is they are only changing one particular thing. And if you look at any particular commit, it's a lot easier to review than let's just say the entire change set all at once, which is pretty overwhelming and in some ways a little bit repetitive and hard to keep everything that's related in your head when you're reviewing it. Like, this might look strange to the reviewer. Why is this particular thing deleted, and where did it go? It's really unclear when you're looking at 17 files all changed at once, or 50 or 100 files. But if we look at this change set, or not this change, did I click on the wrong commit? I did. Clicked on the first one. I meant to click on this one. If we look at, oh no, I had the right commit. Okay, anyway. If we look at this particular commit, that one's not a good example. It's all deletes. This one. if we look at this commit, for example, just dealing with the user report model, we're only handling one particular change set. And so it's really easy to see, okay, we removed things here and we added things here. It's only dealing with user report. So if maybe I'm the code owner of user report, I can look at all of the various parts and know what this is changing and understand it better. But this change set on its own, very small, very easy to review. Very easy for somebody to come in and say, yeah, this looks good, ship it. And not have it be lost in this massive, large change set. Okay, so I've sort of showed you how I split apart commits. Now I want to jump into the actual workflow parts of things. So for that, we're going to show the branch that I'm on right now. Git log one line decorate. This is kind of the big mega branch, this squash index together branch. And for any of these changes, I tend to like to split them out into a separate pull request and get them merged independently of this mega branch. Ideally targeting the main branch itself such that they're already integrated, they're already in production. I don't have to worry about building up this giant branch that's going to be a huge risk when it finally lands because it's going to land everything all at once. I can split these off into individual digestible chunks and run them one at a time, or merge them one at a time. Now, I've actually already gone ahead and built the branches for these and created the pull requests, but I'm going to show you one example where I undo that and then show you the steps that I would go through. So let's actually have a bunch of branches here. Let's redo, what was the one that we had before? User report? Yeah, let's redo that one. So if we just delete this branch, pretend like it's not there. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a branch. I'm going to branch from the upstream branch I'm trying to merge into. So git checkout origin redacted -b this. And now I'm going to find the commit that modified user report inside this list here, which is where user report. Why do I not see it? Oh, there it is. Great. So I'm going to take the commit ID here and I am going to cherry pick that. And now I've basically taken that big stack. It's not, you can think of it like a stack PR, but a stack PR usually means that you have one dependent thing on another dependent thing on another dependent thing. Whereas in this case, I'm taking a big long list of things and making them all independent of each other. Stack PRs are a whole different thing. And I actually, stack PRs can make you more effective, but I find that it's much better to make things independent and merge them separately rather than having a whole bunch of dependent changes. Because dependent changes tend to have, you tend to end up still doing those big mega merges at the end, which, anyway, so I've cherry picked that commit, basically taken the commit out of the big chunk of changes and then reapplied it on top of the upstream branch. If we look at the log now, this is the upstream branch. This file out some patches that doesn't work. And now I just have this one commit all by itself. I can push this up and make a separate PR, and I've actually already done that. So I'll show you that pull request, user report here. And, it was really easy for Mark to look at this small change, review it all by itself, +8, -11, a lot easier to digest than several hundred lines at once. And ultimately, this is a lot easier for me to land. Click merge and land that now. Yeah, so that's the basics of the workflow. Split things into small commits, use a rebase workflow to make sure that your commits are atomic and only dealing with one thing, cherry pick them off to a separate branch when you're ready for it to get integrated, get it reviewed, and then get merged. Now, once you've done all of that, you can actually go back to your mega branch and update it, get it to the place where we've already handled this one, and so we can get rid of it. Do that, we're going to check out the original mega branch, and you'll notice that it is 13 commits ahead right now because I have 13 separate changes inside of it. We'll fetch the upstream, which is going to delete some old branches that got merged. This is the one that we care about here, this user report branch. And we can just rebase this branch on top of the upstream branch directly. Now I'm not going to count these, but trust that there are 12 commits here. Oh, actually it does. And so the user report one is not to be found here because it's already been integrated, and so Git is smart enough to not try and reapply the same patch as before. And so now that I've rebased this branch, I have 12 commits. Great. Okay, so that's basics. I wanted to show a few other slight tweaks to this because sometimes things aren't perfect. Sometimes you may need to adjust a commit that has a problem in it. And I usually do kind of one of two approaches there. Let's say, for example, that we're dealing with, I don't know, this branch here. I'll show you the first approach and then I'll show you the second. Maybe I pushed this to a pull request and it failed tests or something, and so I need to make some change. In this example, we'll just make a silly change. Put hello world in here. Now what I'll do is I will amend that into this commit, but this will make this commit different than my stack PR. I'm going to call it a stack PR even though it's not really one, but that's the easiest way to describe it. So I'm going to add this and amend no edit and amend that into this patch. So now this patch has this hello world up at the top. I would push that up, but I'm not going to do that because I already have a PR that's ready to go and ready to merge for this. So I'm not going to actually do this. And then I would go back to my mega branch and reintegrate this there. Squash index together. And I'm going to rebase now on top of that other branch. So I'm actually going to show a problem here. I'm going to rebase on top of this other branch. And you'll notice that I'm actually rebasing all of the history of the main branch, which I don't want. So we're going to actually just delete everything in this rebase. This will cause it to cancel it. I don't know of a different way to cancel it, but that is the easiest way. Nothing to do, and so it'll cancel it. And so we actually need to make sure that that other branch is rebased first. Check out this. See how it's 340 behind. Rebase on top of this here. And now we can go and do that same thing. So check out easily squash index together, and then rebase on top of this. So now we're going to see the same set of commits that we had on the mega branch. This is kind of that first commit that we were talking about before. And we should see, yeah, we should see that the pull request commit is still in here. Now, in this case, it's not going to be a problem, but sometimes it is, and so usually you'll want to remove that here. I'm going to show you what it does when you don't do that. It'll actually stop at that commit. In this case, because the commit I already had completely included the other one, it's going to tell me, oh, you need to either make an empty commit or skip this. The easiest thing to do is just git rebase continue. Well, it's always good to check git status first to make sure you're not actually doing anything, but git rebase continue, we'll just skip over the empty ones. And so now, decorate. Now we've basically changed the implementation of this pull request one here, and it is now ahead of this commit here. Now I like to be a little bit tidier here, and so I will kind of reorder this so that I have my original warning commit first, but that part's completely optional. And then I would go on to integrate that and get it all up. But yeah, basically this allows me to adjust my rebase workflow, have a bunch of atomic changes that are in one mega patch, so I can kind of see overall status of like a migration or a broad fix or something like that. And then I can incrementally make progress on it by splitting off independent patches and integrating them. And those independent patches are smaller, easy to review, and safer to land because they're smaller. But anyway, I wanted to show off this workflow. I did another video on rebase. I'll try and link that in the description. And I hope you found this useful. If there are additional things you'd like me to explain, leave a comment below or reach out to me on the various platforms. But thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.